lại với chương trình VOR On Air của tổ chức Vietnamese American Round Table thực hiện. Buổi ghi âm ngày hôm nay sẽ là bằng tiếng Anh và Nguyên sẽ cố gắng thông dịch lại bằng tiếng Việt một cách trọn vẹn nhất. Nhưng mà nếu mà có gì sơ sót thì mong quý vị bỏ qua cho. Mục đích của buổi nói chuyện ngày hôm nay thưa quý vị là Nguyên, Megan và Tiana muốn giới thiệu đến quý vị anh Lâm Nguyễn. Hiện tại là anh Lâm đang làm việc trong văn phòng của nghị viên David Cohen, tức là nghị viên của khu vực 4, thành phố San Jose. Hiện tại anh Lâm đang làm việc với một cái tư cách là người Chief of Staff. Anh có rất nhiều những cái việc làm trong cộng đồng. Và ngày hôm nay thì Megan và Tiana sẽ là hai người thực tập viên của VOR. Hai em rất là quan tâm đến việc bầu cử về chính trị cũng như là việc đấu tranh giành quyền lợi cho cộng đồng. Vậy thì trước khi mà Nguyên nhường lại quyền phỏng vấn cho Tiana thì Nguyên muốn hỏi anh Lâm một câu là anh Lâm, are you still at City Hall? Are you still at work? It's 7:30.
7:30 and I just finished work 15 minutes ago.
Busy. All right, Tiana, pass it on to you.
Thank you, Anh Nguyễn, for the introduction, and thank you, Lum, for being with us today. So, as Nguyễn was saying, Lum is currently working at San Jose's District 4. Lum, do you think you can tell us a little bit about your role, what you do for San Jose's District 4, what keeps you up at night, and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. My role is the chief of staff for Councilmember David Cohen. The easiest way for me to describe my job as a chief of staff is if David is the CEO of a company, I'm the COO. So I'm the operations director, which means I have everything when it comes to staff and budgeting, making sure that the office runs. But I'm also his primary advisor on policy as well as politics. So from that perspective, I serve as his universal advisor for most of the things that happen, both inside of City Hall and outside of City Hall that affects our job here at the city. Also, from a constituent perspective too, I live in District 4, and I also grew up in District 4. So I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school in District 4. So the challenges that face the district specifically are very personal to me. My parents also still live in District 4. So I have my entire family's there. So from that perspective, dealing with the problems in District 4 gives me a very clear sense of both accomplishment as well as purpose for being able to serve the people within my district, because they're my people, and it's where I live. So I'm helping to better my home, for lack of a better way of saying it. As for things that keep me up at night, obviously it's most of the problems that we see on a daily basis, things like affordable housing, and helping with the affordable housing crisis, which is, what we do with the budget process and being able to affect that. Also homelessness. Homelessness is a big challenge that we're trying to tackle in the city as a whole. I'm proud to say that for the first time in, I think, a decade, the number of homeless people in the city of San Jose decreased for the first time in a long time. And that has been some work that we're very, very proud of, because we've been working very hard on that.
Cảm ơn Lâm rất là nhiều. Anh Lâm, do you mind sharing with us what District 4 is?
Oh, sure. District 4 is the Berryessa area, North San Jose, just south of Milpitas. North San Jose around the just south of 237, and then all of Alviso. So it's the northern corner of the city of San Jose that has roughly 108,000 people, I think, is the total number of constituents.
Thank you, anh Lâm. Just let me translate a little bit here. Anh Lâm đã làm việc là một chief of staff của khu vực 4 thành phố San Jose. Thì những cái việc mà anh Lâm làm là quản lý cái khu vực của mình, và là giống như là người là giám đốc điều hành vậy đó trong một cái công ty. Anh Lâm đã chia sẻ với quý vị là đã có những cái thành tựu của anh và những người thành phố San Jose đã đạt được là giảm cái số lượng người vô gia cư xuống và xây dựng nhiều cái nhà cửa giá rẻ, hoặc là nhà cửa mà có thể người dân có thể trả tiền mà không phải là bị quá gọi là quá nặng nề về cái việc mà trả tiền rent. Thì anh Lâm, trong cộng đồng Việt Nam mình đó anh Lâm, cái chữ mà Chief of Staff hoặc là COO á, thì mọi người vẫn không có hiểu rõ lắm là như thế nào, tại vì rất là ít người Việt Nam mà làm cái chức vụ là Chief of Staff hoặc là làm trong một cái elected official hay là làm việc trong một cái tổ chức này kia, một người mà gọi là nghị viên. Thì anh có thể nói thêm là what do you do as a Chief of Staff for Councilman?
Yeah, sure. I think an easy way to explain it is, if my council member is, as an elected official, is the owner of the business, I'm the general manager. So I manage the day-to-day operations of the business. I make sure that everything's working. I make sure that the staff that I have for the elected office is well supported. So I have a community engagement staff, I have a policy staff, I have a communication staff, and I make sure, like, my job is to make sure that they have the resources they need and that I remove as many obstacles as I can, in order for them to do their jobs better. And then provide them the support whenever they need it, because, obviously working in government, there are times where you have to have some very, very difficult conversations. And I'm a firm believer in, the more success you have in your life is purely based on the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. And so that is one of my primary jobs, not just for my staff, but also for my council member as well. I'm not afraid of confrontation. And I think as a chief of staff, you have to be the person that is willing to dive headfirst into confrontation in order to make sure that everyone at the table can have conversations about very important topics. And that's something that's really challenging at the city, as I'm sure you know. Almost everything we deal with is very difficult. And so from that perspective, everyone's going to have an opinion. And being able to take all of those different perspectives and all of those different opinions and synthesize them together into a solution that may not make everybody happy, but may produce a good outcome that will eventually be beneficial to not just the community in your district, but also to the city of San Jose.
Cảm ơn anh Lâm rất là nhiều. So, speaking of uncomfortable conversation, Megan, em có câu hỏi for anh Lâm, right? About the uncomfortable conversation.
It's really amazing to hear your insights. And if I could clarify one thing, when you sign up to work for an elected official,
Mhm.
you may not have a job if the official does not get reelected for their second term, right?
Of course. And the uncertainty of elections is always a part of the equation, for any of us who work in public service. That being said, though, I'm a bit crazier than most people. My expectation is that I can find a job. And so I think that the most effective way that you can work in public service is to go in eyes open, and head first, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so I think, there's a certain sense of courage and bravery that you have to have, in order to be effective in this line of work. And given the initial conversation that we had here, you all know now that I've changed my career quite a few times. And so from that perspective, I don't have a fear about changing my career. Don't get me wrong, though. We want to continue doing the work that we do. And every time you have a new elected official or you go somewhere else in public service, you have to hit the reset button. So in my past, for example, I've worked at the California State Senate for two different senators. I worked for Senator Cortese as well as Senator Jim Bell. And at each transition point, there's a reset. You have to learn the job. You have to learn the elected official. You have to learn what their priorities are. And then obviously the level of government matters a lot too. So for example, transitioning from the California State Senate to working at the city council is a very rough transition. At the state level, you're dealing with budgets of billions of dollars, and you're working on one particular bill for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, versus at the city level where you're dealing with tens of millions of dollars, but you're dealing with policy that literally changes day to day. So for example, last week, we got word of 3 different policies, and within 48 hours, we had 3 different policies written that go to council, that get voted on. And, from that point, you're making policy not in a matter of months, but sometimes in a matter of hours. And obviously, from the perspective of, a chief of staff, it's not just my job to make sure that we write good policy. It's also my job to make sure the policy gets passed. And so from that perspective, I have to get the buy-in of city staff. I have to work with my partners in what's called the Brown Act, which is other council offices, in order to get their buy-in and make sure that we have the votes, because I'm a firm believer of this. I do not want to waste my time writing policy that's not going to pass. So I work very, very diligently in order to make sure that we have the votes for that. And the overall of that is the message, at least from my perspective, is I wake up every morning telling myself one very simple thing, which is, this is not about me. And as long as I keep that mantra in my mind, I'm always there to do the best work that I can for the citizens of San Jose. And because my guiding light is always going to be the work that I want to do for other people, I feel like that will prove itself over time, and the results of my work will show over time, which is why, as much as there is uncertainty when it comes to, the elections that come, like, what if my boss doesn't get reelected? This may sound crazy, but I don't care. And the reason I don't care is I'm going to land somewhere else and I'm going to keep doing good work. And because the bug of public service has kind of bitten me pretty hard, I'm going to do this work for the rest of my career. And knowing that removes that uncertainty. I'm going to work somewhere. It may not be this office, but I will continue to do public service.